So this AirPod looking thing showed up at the studio, and this was sent by a company who in the past have sent me very accurate and reliable mock-ups of hardware that's pre-release. So they sent me blanks of upcoming iPhones. They've sent me the resin model of the Pixel Fold before it was available. They also sent me the Surface Duo, like a functioning Surface Duo, before it was released. They have a very good track record with me. But last week when this device showed up, I thought it was pretty interesting because this is supposed to be a upcoming AirPod Pro case. And it's just AirPods Pro, except the defining feature is that it has a touch screen on it. Now, when I got this in, when I pulled it out of the box, the first reaction I had was like, there's no way this is real. There's no way that Apple is coming out with this thing, because there's so many questions, so many thoughts I have about this thing, about why it probably shouldn't even exist. But I asked them, is this legit? And they're like, they seemed quite convinced that this was actually gonna be a thing. So I look into it, and it turns out that in 2022, Apple did file a patent for a device that looks to be some kind of case for AirPods. And this case has a touchscreen, and they document the kind of functionality of that touchscreen. But the thing to keep in mind when it comes to Apple patents is that the vast majority of their patents don't end up as a product. A lot of it is for like experimental or explorative purposes. But in this case, I feel like this could actually be a real device. And also, it's also the confidence that those guys seem to have about this whole thing. Now, I have so many questions and thoughts. Okay, when you compare it with a real AirPod Pro 2, this is the one with the USB-C port. They both have USB-C ports. They both have a little speaker thing. They both have the lanyard loop on the right. They both have the same kind of back, metal hinge, the button. And when you open it up, it's also identical. It really is just the presence of the screen that is the difference. Also, kudos to them for actually fitting a screen onto a case like this. I'll be honest, I was surprised that this thing could even exist. But the question that you have, the million-dollar question, is why would Apple even put a touchscreen onto AirPods in the first place? Okay, so on this mock-up, the thing that I have here, it has some functionality. Like the touchscreen gives you controls, namely audio controls. You can control your music. You get volume controls. You get ANC control, so you can like turn your noise cancellation on and off. You can enter transparency mode. And this was all functional. That was the crazy thing. Like you could do all this stuff with these buds that were in here. And there's also an EQ. If you want to like crank up your bass, you can. There's just a whole bunch of functionality, including a Find My Buds. Like you could, this was all functional, right? You could just have it out and like it all worked. Now, the sound quality on these buds aren't great. They're not real buds, but it was crazy that this was functional. Now, my initial reaction is like, okay, this is all cool, but the one thing that I would have loved to have seen would be the ability for my phone to be able to send media to this thing. So it could use like an iPod, right? But it turns out you can't do that. And if you look at the patent filing, that also seems to be the case. The device that they have there in the patent is only used as a controller for an external audio source, like your phone or computer that's nearby. And then I thought, if you need your phone nearby, why would you use this? Like imagine you had the AirPods case in one pocket and then your phone in the other pocket. In what scenario is it easier or better to use the controls on the case instead of your phone? Like I just couldn't wrap my head around. And also, by introducing a screen onto this thing, you now make it more expensive, you make it heavier, you make it more fragile. Now the battery has to be bigger to be able to juice all this stuff. Like it just seems like a really bizarre thing for Apple to even consider, that I was just like, this seems impossible, like actually unlikely. Now, it is Apple. They have the tendency to just put screens on things whenever they can because they can. Like I said the same thing about having the touch bar on the MacBook Pro a few years back. I was like, why? Because they can. Same with the Vision Pro. When this thing launched, I was like, why are they putting this whole Vision thing on the front? Like, why is there a screen? It makes it more expensive, more heavy. Like the same things, right? Same problems by adding a screen on the front of things. But it's what Apple does. And then they just do it because they can. Now, there's another layer to all of this. When I used this over the past few days and I tried to kind of imagine a scenario where I would actually want to use this, it couldn't click for me. It just didn't really make sense to me as to why a screen on an AirPod case would be useful. However, this is not the only device out there, and this thing isn't even real. There are other products out there right now you can buy that have some kind of wireless earbuds with a screen on the front of the case. The most prominent one being from JBL, the JBL Tour Pro 2. And this device has great reviews. But the interesting thing is that even though a handful of these reviews mention a gimmicky screen, like, the screen doesn't do that much, the vast majority of the reviews seem to love the existence of that touchscreen. A lot of people are talking about how it's got this extra functionality. And the whole time I'm like, do these people not have phones? Like, why is this special? So maybe it's something that I personally don't get, and maybe some of you guys can chime in and be like, there's awesome functionality to that. But I cannot envision a scenario where if I was in a store and I could choose between two devices, right? One with a screen or the one without a screen that's gonna be invariably cheaper. I would always choose the cheaper one that was screenless. Unless, oh my God. As I was saying that sentence, I think something just came into my mind. What if, okay. Oh my God. Right now, this is a $250 product, US, the regular AirPods Pro 2. Now, what if the next generation, the AirPods Pro 3, only comes with a screened case, as in it's the only option? What if there is no screenless case that you can buy? You have to get a case with the screen. Dude, I can totally see this. They charge you $280. So instead of $250, it's now $280. That $30 bump up in price, you get slightly better audio, but the big thing is you get a screen now. And that justifies that bump up in price for the consumers. This totally makes sense because it also opens up this upgrade tree, because then the next year they can sell you the Retina version, and then the liquid Retina version, and the one with the notch. They got this whole, you can do that whole thing now. You see, oh my God, this finally makes sense to me. This whole time, I just couldn't piece it together, but now this scenario actually makes sense because this is a very high margin product, right? These things are very cheap to produce and they sell for a lot of money. But what if you could bump up the price by like $30 when it only costs you maybe $5 or $6 more to produce it? That would be such an Apple thing to do. Dudes, that's gotta be it. That's gotta be why this thing could possibly exist. Now, whether or not it actually comes out, I don't know, but it totally makes sense to me now. It totally makes sense to me. What do you think? Now, I could be totally wrong. For some people out there, they'll be like, Dave, you're completely an idiot. There are so many usage cases where having a screen is awesome on an AirPod case. Educate me, please, like legitimately. I wanna know if that's a real thing, but what do you think? That's my theory for the day. Hope you guys enjoyed this video.